This story is based on official reports and eyewitness accounts. On July 16, 1999, John Kennedy Jr. was scheduled to pilot a Piper Saratoga plane departing from Essex County Airport in New Jersey. After flying along the coastline, JFK Jr. had planned to continue his flight to Martha's Vineyard Airport. The departure airport, located in close proximity to Manhattan, is often frequented by wealthy New Yorkers seeking a weekend getaway from the city. John intended to attend his cousin Rory's wedding and decided to fly his newly purchased plane, which he had owned for 3 months. He had been training as a pilot for 17 years and held an active license for 1 year. JFK Jr. had accumulated a total flight experience of 310 hours. In short, John, who had limited piloting experience, planned to fly with his newlywed wife Carolyn and her sister Lauren. They would drop off Lauren at her destination and then continue to the wedding. John aimed to arrive at the departure airport before sunset and scheduled the departure accordingly. Despite John's planned departure time at 6 p.m., there was a delay in the arrival of his wife and sister-in-law, Lauren, due to heavy traffic during rush hour in New York. It was approximately an hour before sunset when they finally arrived and quickly boarded the plane. Just 6 weeks ago, John had broken his left ankle in a paragliding accident and had undergone minor surgery the day before the flight. As a result, he had a removable cast on his left leg. John, a political figure with a private pilot license, finished his preparations and began taxiing towards runway 22. Upon reaching the runway, they notified the controller and initiated the takeoff half an hour before sunset. Soon after reaching the required takeoff speed, John, along with his wife and his wife's sister, successfully took off. The flight they had planned was a short-haul journey, lasting a mere 90 minutes in total. As they ascended to an altitude of 5,500 feet, they were greeted by breathtaking views of New York and the Hudson River. They maintained a relatively low altitude to comply with the maximum altitude permitted for visual flight conditions in the region. The Kennedy family has been associated with a series of tragic events and losses. The beloved former president of the United States JFK was assassinated just 3 days before his son's 3rd birthday. Additionally, the president's brother was also among those who lost their lives due to an assassination. Furthermore, Joseph Kennedy Jr., the uncle of the former prime minister, tragically perished in a secret mission during World War II. These events have led to the emergence of the term Kennedy curse among the people, signifying a perception of enduring misfortune. Let's take a quick break. We've put a lot of effort into this video, so if you find it informative, please remember to subscribe and like. Your support allows us to create more content for you. The lasting image of a young John, at just 3 years old, saluting his father's grave in a small jacket, stayed in people's minds. As the only child and heir of his father, John carried immense significance among the people. Many believed he would be a future presidential candidate, and he had made a name for himself in both business and politics. Consequently, the family had amassed a number of adversaries. Official records indicated that there had been 3 documented assassination attempts on John in recent years. Returning to the plane, John had approximately half an hour remaining, having flown this route multiple times along the coastline before. Initially, everything appeared to be proceeding smoothly. However, according to radar recordings, John began a gradual descent, followed by erratic maneuvers, ultimately descending rapidly towards the chilling waters of the Atlantic Ocean. Within moments, John, along with his wife and sister-in-law, tragically crashed their plane into the Atlantic Ocean from an altitude of 5,500 feet. The airport controller grew concerned when they lost contact with the plane. While flight delays are common, the passing hours without any contact raised alarm, indicating that something was amiss. By 3 o'clock in the early morning, the controller contacted the Coast Guard, initiating search and rescue operations. 5 hours had already elapsed since the accident occurred. Typically, private planes are required to file a flight plan before takeoff, specifying the intended route and the number of passengers on board. However, John took off without submitting a flight plan to the office. Throughout the flight, he only communicated the necessary information during the takeoff phase with the controller and did not maintain contact with anyone else. Consequently, investigators only had knowledge of the intended destination airport. Due to John's political stature, news of the accident quickly spread through the media. The public and the relatives of those on board anxiously awaited any updates or information. In the early hours of the morning, the American Army and local law enforcement initiated a search operation for the plane, working in coordination with the Coast Guard to locate the aircraft in the vast ocean. Detecting 3 individuals in such a large expanse of water proved to be a challenging task. Accessing data from the coast radar stations provided information about the plane, including its altitude, direction, and speed. However, radar signals over the ocean were limited to a maximum altitude of 1,100 feet, making it difficult for low-flying aircraft. As a result, while they initially determined that the plane was descending, the last moments of the flight could not be captured. Initially, suspicions centered around the possibility of a bomb on board the plane, fueling discussions about a potential assassination similar to John's father. Fortunately, the investigation yielded some results. Aircraft parts, along with some suitcases from the plane, were discovered near Martha's Vineyard Airport, their intended destination, due to the swift ocean currents. However, the recovered fragments were insufficient to determine the cause of the accident and raised further questions instead. 4 days after the plane crash, Navy divers located the submerged plane on the ocean floor, along with the 3 individuals inside. The main wreckage of the plane was found intact, indicating that it did not break apart in the air but crashed into the water as a whole. If there had been an explosion, the aircraft parts would have been scattered in different locations. Around 75% of the wreckage was recovered from the ocean floor, allowing investigators to closely examine the details, starting from the wingtips. They were able to determine the precise location of the collision and the angle at which the plane descended. Despite these findings, they could not ascertain the cause of the accident. During their investigation, weather conditions were thoroughly examined, revealing the presence of dense fog in the region. At their altitude, John and his 2 passengers had entered the fog. This raised the question of why John, who was authorized to fly only in visual conditions, continued to approach without considering the weather conditions along their route. In visual flights, pilots rely on visual references in the environment rather than solely depending on aircraft instruments. However, when entering a cloud or fog, visibility suddenly decreases, making it impossible to rely on visual references. Before becoming an airline pilot, it is mandatory to have instrument flight training, which enables pilots to navigate solely by relying on the instruments in the cockpit without visual references from outside. This training is crucial for flying in conditions where visibility is reduced, such as when entering clouds or encountering bad weather. Pilots without instrument flight authorization are not permitted to fly in adverse weather conditions or enter clouds. The same applied to John, who held a private pilot's license without instrument flight authorization. In other words, John was not allowed to enter clouds or fly in conditions with reduced visibility. During the investigation, the plane's radio was found in the wreckage and examined. Upon examining the radio frequencies, it was discovered that John had mistakenly set the wrong frequency to receive the weather report. As a result, he was unable to hear the weather information. Investigators determined that John had mistakenly entered the wrong digit for the ATIS frequency, which provides weather information. Instead of setting the correct frequency of 126.25, he had set it to 127.25. When entering a cloud and relying solely on visual reference, pilots can experience a visual illusion where the plane may appear to be flying straight when it is actually tilted to the right or left. In such situations, pilots are trained to rely on the attitude indicator on the aircraft instruments to maintain proper flight control, rather than relying solely on their own senses. However, John, who did not have an instrument rating, had limited experience and training in handling such situations. Upon examining John's piloting history, investigators discovered that he had trained with 11 different instructors, indicating insufficient training consistency. There was no official conclusion of foul play or assassination in the accident. Researchers concluded that after entering the cloud, Kennedy began a steep descent and lost situational awareness due to reliance on his own senses rather than the aircraft's instruments. Additionally, it was revealed that Kennedy had declined the offer of his pilot instructor to accompany him on the flight, expressing a desire to fly alone. The media and the public found it difficult to accept the accident report released by investigators, which attributed the crash to a pilot error on John's part. Many questioned the notion that someone like John could have made such a mistake. Over the years, various theories and speculations emerged as people sought alternative explanations for the accident. In memory of John F. Kennedy Jr., his wife, and his wife's sister, Lauren.